They get straight to the issues, don't they? That's very good. I was at an event not too long ago where one of the candidates, nothing against his mama, but that's all he talked about. And I'm not so sure how that played in the crowd, but thank y'all for getting to the issues. This first group of questions goes to what Frank had mentioned when he was talking about business here in Troup County. So these are all surrounding the concepts of the tax allocation districts, where you bring in a business and give it some favorable tax status. We'll start with you, Patrick, because Frank opened up. We'll kind of alternate doing that. If you can explain what a tax allocation district is and its benefits, good or bad, and its impacts on the community, and then give Frank an opportunity to respond and put his views out there.
Okay. A TAD is a tax allocation district. It is a way for local government to set up zones or areas in which they can try to attract new business to your community. Basically, a government says that for this area, if a developer develops within this area, the area has to be approved by local governments. The school board is also involved in that. Then you can try to attract new businesses to your community. And what you allow them to do is the fees that they would have paid in increased property tax, you can rebate those back or not collect those for a period of time. And that allows the developer to go in there and put the infrastructure that they need to do their development. Currently, I think we have 4 TAD projects in LaGrange that have been approved and awaiting development. I think it's very interesting that about a month ago, I sat in on a meeting with some folks who were here from Whitfield County, Georgia, which is Dalton, and they were coming down to LaGrange. There were about 8 people from Dalton that came down to LaGrange to find out what good things, to find out about the good things that we had going on here. And I thought it was pretty impressive that folks from Dalton, Georgia, that I've always held kind of in high esteem, was one of the cities that probably competes with us, that they were in Troup County to find out about the good things that we have. So again, it's a way to attract development to your community, and that is the name of the game for us. Is, you know, most of the people in Troup County want more retail development, and so this is a good tool for us.
Very good. Thank you, Frank.
Well, that's one of those questions that Patrick gave the definition to it, and I won't bore you out with that again, but I would say this. I would like to see that improvised at our airport here. There's some large companies that are interested in maybe having a hangar here, such as UPS or FedEx, and that would be a great way to get those here, is to offer them that service with that TAD. The TAD is a good thing to get business here. Anytime you can get business in and increase it here in Troup County, that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Okay, now along those same lines, since we make sure everybody in the audience has a good understanding of what it is, a more basic question: do you think the concept is a good idea? Do you think giving preferential tax treatment to one group over another as a policy is fundamentally correct? So where one business might get this, where another business may not. And so as a fundamental policy, do you think that's something you would support and continue to support, or even expand it? And please support your answer with why you would do that. Frank, go ahead.
I would definitely support it if it's a large enough business that it's going to justify doing that to bring it into Troup County. In other words, if you're going to do that service for a business that's going to bring in 300 or 400 or 3,000 or 4,000 employees for Troup County, then that would be a great thing to do. You can't do that for every business in Troup County. Let's face it, the government runs on taxes, and we have to have taxes. It's an unfortunate thing that we do, but we do. So we couldn't do that for everyone. We couldn't stop the taxes for everyone. But on large businesses that's going to help the county and going to bring in a lot of jobs, sure, I would support that 100%.
Yes, I would support the concept. I don't believe that you can put a blanket policy in place that you'll do that for every business that looks to come to your county. Because this is a joint decision between the city government, the county government, and the school board, we've got 3 governmental agencies that are looking through those proposed projects, and they have to make a decision from their standpoint of how it will affect them, the tax revenue they would expect. But, you know, it's sad that we live in a world today in which all businesses look to come to your community and they want some type of incentive. Not too awful long ago, I'm involved with a group that was looking at a project in LaGrange. And we had a very, very large national sporting good retailer that wanted to come to LaGrange. You know, we knew that they were going to ask for incentives. At the end of the day, we did not wind up making a proposal to them. They chose a site north of here in Acworth, Georgia. So we lost out on that. So, you know, we find out with my involvement in the chamber that a lot of businesses that come, they want incentives. And each community has to decide for themselves what they think is important to bring into their community.
Thank you, Patrick. Just so who answered first last time was Frank. So just stay up there and that'll save you getting up and down a lot. If y'all do that. One of the interesting things geographically that we have here in Troup County is that not only do you have to compete against neighboring counties, you've got another state that you have to compete with when it comes to business. Besides tax policy, what things do you bring, what other ideas would you have to attract these businesses? How do you sell Troup County when you have such competition from not only the surrounding Georgia counties, but Alabama as well?
Okay, Mike, you're from Fayetteville, right?
No, don't talk bad about me. I'm from Coweta County. Come on.
Peachtree City, right?
Don't be like that.
Well, I know. But what I'm saying, we compete with other cities and counties around us, like Coweta County and Newnan, Columbus, Auburn. I mean, those are all communities that we have to compete with. I know that a lot of us have been very disappointed as a community that when Kia came, I was one of those people that thought there'd be busloads of folks getting off with their suitcase in hand and LaGrange was going to get swallowed up. And as we found out, it didn't happen that way. And so I think it's very disappointed as a community. But I think that the assets that we have here in Troup County, I loved it when our mayor spoke at the chamber breakfast back several months ago. He said, take a blank piece of paper and draw the perfect community. What would you have in it? You'd like to have a natural feature. We have West Point Lake. You'd like to have education. We have 2 colleges in our community. We'd like to have a great hospital. We'd like to have a good school system. There's lots of things that any community, if you were drawing a community today on a piece of paper, starting with blank, what would we have? Well, folks, we have a lot of those things here in Troup County. We have a lot of great things that other communities would die to have that are similar size to us. So I feel like we've got to build on those assets. I think we have challenges in the area of education with our children. You know, it's sad, and I've brought this up before, that more than 20% of our children are below the poverty level, our families. That's a drain on our community. Being a banker for many years, I understand how that can affect the community. It affects the businesses that will come to LaGrange. So there's challenges we have, but the assets that we have are wonderful, and we just need to continue to build on those.
Thank you. Frank?
Oh, that's okay. Yes, sir. I would like to elaborate on one thing. If LaGrange Troup County is so attractive, last year, why did we have a little over 100 building permits issued here? We had over 800 issued in Coweta County and 900 issued in Lee County. That's counties that's touching us. So it's obvious that we're doing something wrong here. We're not getting the people to live here. We've got to change. We've got to do something to attract people to come here and build their houses. If we attract people to come here and build their houses and live here in our community, we'll get the businesses. The businesses will come if we can get the people here. But it's quite obvious that right now we're not getting the people here. I mean, those figures are there. Anybody can go check them that wants to go check them. We are way behind in getting people to come live in LaGrange. So we have got to do something to turn it around to get people to come live here.
Very good. Frank, Chief Frank, I think it's your turn. If you when you finish up, we'll just roll to the next one. That's all right. When we look at the impact Kia has on our local community, give your commentary. I mean, we've only had a short window, but we've had some time to see what happens when you bring such a large-scale employer into a rural community. And is it good, bad? What would you like to see different? And I know time will tell when we get a decade down the road, but where we are right now, what's your assessment?
Well, I think Kia's great. I think a lot of people, some of my friends work at Kia. Kia has provided a good many jobs for LaGrange and Troup County. But the problem I have with Kia is most of those people don't live here. They live in Lee County, they live in Opelika, they live in Auburn, they live in Newnan, they live in Peachtree City. We've got to do something to get the people to want to live here. That's my only problem with Kia. Kia's a wonderful thing, and it gave a lot of people a job. They just don't live in Troup County.
Thank you. Patrick?
Well, as I stated in an earlier meeting, you know, I say that I worked in a textile mill for 2 summers when I was in college, and so I understand the textile business, and I came to LaGrange, and it was a wonderful community, a long, rich history in textiles. But you know, several years ago, we saw that industry slip away. And I think LaGrange in this area was very fortunate to attract an employer the size of Kia to our area. And so, like I said, we've had our challenges with the workers, not all coming from Troup County. But when you talk to the Kia people, you know, they're looking for the most qualified people to run those jobs at the plant. Probably about a month ago, I had some conversation with the employment agency that hires a lot of the people for Kia. And I asked them, what's the biggest problem to finding workers? And I want y'all to understand when I make this comment, this was not LaGrange people only. About 25% of those people failed the drug test. And so that's not just Troup County people, but the area in which they draw. We've got a major problem with drugs in this area that we all as a community pay a price for. I appreciate our dedicated law enforcement officers, whether it's Sheriff's Department, police, State Patrol, DEA, whomever, for the work they do. But we've got some issues facing us to try to attract better quality workers to Kia. But I'm a fan of what Kia represents for Troup County, the jobs that it's offered to people here, for the monies they contribute to the school system. They've written checks. I've been involved with several organizations that have received donations, the dental clinic, different groups that they have given money to. So I appreciate the fact that we have an employer, the quality of Kia in our community.
Very good, Patrick. Next question, while you're there. If, you know, governments do business a lot. Some governments decide they're going to do all the road work and different things. How do you look at the idea of the county government working with local businesses to try to create an environment or allow businesses better access or opportunities to do work for the county? How would you address that?
Okay. You know, county government is much different than city government. County government operates on tax money almost exclusively. And so I know that for me and listening to the people around the community, they don't want a tax increase. And so I think the challenge for us in government is going to be how can we figure out how to reduce our budget or come up with some innovative ways to raise some revenues. And I don't mean things like extra taxes on our citizens, but there's some ways to collect money on people that pass through Troup County. And so we've either got to have some innovative ways to collect money, or we've got to reduce our budget. For the county government, the way I see them helping business is creating a conducive environment that when a business comes here, that they can meet with the people in the community, the right leaders in the areas that they need to address. I think that we need to look at our policies when somebody goes into the county government to apply for a permit, or they want to ask how does a business get started in Troup County, that we should have processes in place that when they walk in, that they know that we're there to do business with them. So I think that's some of the things that county government can do to try to attract business and work with our local businesses.
I think let me follow up with that a little bit, Patrick, and then Frank, you can deal with both these. I think the question as I read it, maybe I didn't articulate it well enough, was more along the lines of when a business wants to do work for the county. I mean, basically privatization of certain services.
Okay.
Whether it be road repairs or sidewalk building or you name it. What's your take on that concept as far as providing efficiencies in government versus the government
Doing it themselves.
owning all the equipment and doing it themselves?
Well, I'm certainly for free enterprise, and so if a private contractor comes to the county and says that I can pave a road and their price is X amount per square foot, square yard, or ever how y'all measure that in construction term, then I'm certainly fine to look at doing that. I mean, you know, you've got to make, there's certain things you've got to make sure of, that the contractor can perform up to the standards that the county has. But I would be very open to looking at private business, what services they can do that government might be doing at this time. And I would like to add that one of those is, you know, an example that I think is kind of interesting. I have a property up in North Georgia. When I go to throw my trash away, I bought the property and I didn't ask, how do you get rid of your trash? So when I had my first couple of bags, I went up to the dumpster to throw them in there, and the lady in the little booth hollered at me, whoa, whoa, whoa. She said, drop those on the scale. And so I owed her $1.20 per bag, I think, and then I threw my trash in the trash can. And I scratched my head and got to thinking about that. But you know, that county has a pay-as-you-go system on convenience centers. Now, I'm not saying I like that or even support that idea for Troup County, but there's other ways to do business than the way we're currently used to it. And so if the citizens agree and they think it's best, if they're willing to make a change, then I think we should entertain those ideas and see if private business can do it better.
Very good. Frank?
That's one of my personal pet peeves, is I am 100% for keeping business in Troup County. If we need an air conditioning job done for the government, we need to try every way we can to keep it in Troup County. If we need a road paved, we need to try to keep that in Troup County. I have a little bit of experience with this, though. Let me tell you a little thing about inmates. I don't care what you do with those inmates or how close you watch those inmates. They're not going to do a good job as a person that owns a business in the town, and he's feeding his family and taking care of his home and his needs by doing that job. They're just not going to do it. I worked with them my whole life for 38 years. They're not going to do a good job as a private contractor will. So you have to weigh that when you're going to do these things. You have to say, well, can I save a little bit of money here by letting the inmates do this? And then maybe 2 years down the road, or they didn't do a good job, that road's going to fall apart. But we have got to do everything we can to keep our business in Troup County. If we need office furniture, whatever we need to go out of our way to try to buy it from Troup County merchants. And that is, you know, I feel for that very strong.
Thank you, Frank. Your next question, just hang on right there. Talking about saving money, what would, on the other side of that, what would you say are the greatest cost pressures that Troup County government is facing? What is driving cost increases to the government, and how would you address those?
Well, our infrastructure and a lot of our buildings in Troup County are getting old, and so that's driving a great cost for us. The sheriff's office, for instance, is getting 20 plus years old, so you're going to have to spend a lot of money on it. The roads are costing more money, a fortune of money, and the people spending money on taxes, they fuss about wanting to fix stuff and make it better, but you're going to have to do that. That's a tough question, really. I would love to research that question and think about it a little bit and give you a long answer on it.
Very good. Thank you, Frank. Patrick?
Well, I think there's a lot of pressures on local government. I mean, if you look over the last several years, we've seen a lot of houses being foreclosed on. We've seen property values drop, and so it's affected our tax base. Just this week there was a headline in the paper that the county government was being hit with health care costs. And so most businesses are being hit real hard with the increase of health care. There are a ton of pressures that face each government. I think that my plan would be on government. I know several years ago when the economy turned south, a lot of people were kind of saying, why isn't the government kind of cutting their budgets? My plan would be, is having been in private business for so long, and particularly in the financial side, the first thing that I would have asked each county department head to do was to cut their budget by 3%. And let's see what projects would fall out or what things might not be able to be accomplished. But I think citizens were looking during that time for ways that government could have cut their expenses to kind of suffer a little bit of the pain that the local citizens were going through. But the thing is that we do have to keep our eye on the ball. There are, as Frank mentioned, there are buildings that just depreciate in value. They have repairs that have to be done. We have to replace certain things. So there's a lot of pressure on our county commissioners to make the wise choices and look out there and spend the money. It's your tax dollars to spend it frugal and to make wise decisions when they spend that money.
Very good. Patrick, our next group of questions kind of deal with the same issues of revenue and expenses. On the revenue side, are you in favor of SPLOST? And if so, how do you, would you see using that, and what type of projects would you champion for that?
Okay. Well, as most of you know in this room, that I was involved in the last several SPLOST campaigns. And, SPLOST is a special purpose local option sales tax. It gives communities the decision or ability to look at and decide if they want to increase their sales tax to do certain projects. Now, a lot of people don't understand that those projects have to be capital projects. This is not to pay for increased health care, to pay for operating costs. It can only be done for special capital projects that are defined when the SPLOST is first introduced. Well, in concept, I agree with the SPLOST because it allows the people in the county to decide what they want to spend their money on. If you take a tax millage increase, only our county commissioners get to vote on that. So when you have a SPLOST, you're returning that right to the people to decide that. I think, two of the things, the criticisms I always hear about SPLOST is, number one, is the projects of what people are, what's the government proposing we do with that money? Well, my plan would be to open up a process in which the communities can decide what they have input from the citizens as to things that they would like to see the money spent on in their community. So it's kind of driven from the citizens up. And then I hear a lot of people just complain that the government shouldn't have thrown that tax out there when things are tough. Well, I agree that. Let me tell you, I suffered your pain with it and paid through those difficult times too. But it is an opportunity for the community to do what they want to do. We have to understand that SPLOST collects about $10 million a year. Now, by estimates from the University of Georgia, a third of that is paid by out-of-town people. So when we decide, and I've got good friends, and I look around this room and I see a couple of them tonight that told me, I didn't agree on the SPLOST. But when you look at it, that's $10 million that all our neighboring counties are collecting. Are we willing as a community to pass on that? But more importantly, the people get to decide what they want to do as far as the SPLOST.
I'm gonna make this one really short. I am very agreeable with SPLOST, but I feel like the people should decide what to do with it, 100%. And if we need to bring it to a vote to let the people decide to do with it, then that's what we need to do. Because there's a lot of people not happy with what we've done with our SPLOST. So, yeah, SPLOST is a great thing, and we need it in LaGrange, we need it in Troup County. But I would like to see the citizens of Troup County propose the things that they would like to do with the SPLOST money, and if necessary, bring that before the commission and have a vote on what the people here would like to do with it. The second best thing about it is it brings in some money from outside, where Troup County unfortunately does not make any money any other way. So it's a good thing because it actually gets a little bit of money from outside of LaGrange.
Very good. Frank, along those same lines, would you support, there's an idea floating around the General Assembly of changing what Patrick had mentioned, where it could only be used for capital projects. There is some discussion about giving more liberties to how that money would be spent. Would you be in support of that concept or against that?
My goodness, I am absolutely in support of it. If we could do that, we could lower taxes in Troup County because we could pay salaries to our employees with it. That would be the biggest thing that could happen with SPLOST. If we could get it where we could pay salaries, we could lower our taxes. We could lower them dramatically. Absolutely. I'd be 100% for that.
Mike, I'm not sure that I could fully support that at this time until it's studied that a little bit more. I know that there's been discussions around the state for many years that a lot of people would like to see sales tax replace property tax, or at least a mixture there. And while I totally agree that it's a great idea in concept, I love it because everybody's going to pay that. It can have an effect on our tax base when we do that. Sales tax is a little less predictable than property tax is. And so what I'm more interested in is not, for me, is to primarily focus on some ways that we could improve our revenues and cut our expenses in Troup County.
Very good. While you're there, would you be, we're talking on taxes, and this, I think some of this was mentioned earlier, but would you be in favor of a millage rate or tax increase on the county specifically? And consider a SPLOST, it would be a tax increase, I guess. So, be specific of different types of taxes and how you would feel about maintaining, reducing, or increasing them.
Okay. Well, as far as SPLOST, I've stated earlier, and I stick by that is something that the citizens of the county get to vote on. And whether they approve it or disapprove it, that's left up to the citizens. So I would love them to have that opportunity to vote on it. I think it's very important to give opportunities for citizens to give input into what they want to see in their county and what they're willing to pay for. As far as property tax, I can tell you as I've been around this county, just like the issue with curbside pickup, I had no one that was in support of curbside pickup that lived in the county. So I personally had a problem with it for my own, taking my trash can down to the road. And then I didn't talk to anybody in the county that was in favor of it. As I've been out walking around and talking to people, I hear it loud and clear: no property tax increase. And so if you put a parameter over here that says we'll do no property tax increase, then the only two ways that you can make increases or handle your budget is either you got to cut some expenses, or you're going to have to look at some ways, innovative ways to collect some revenue. And let me give you an example of that. In talking to some of our folks in the fire department, we have an opportunity when there's an accident on the interstate, let's use the interstate in LaGrange, and our county fire department has to respond to that accident. We actually have the ability to charge the insurance company of the person involved or responsible for the accident for the cost of providing that service on the interstate. So that is, to me, is an innovative way to look at increasing revenues. If you couple that with cutting some expenses in the budget, then I think we can certainly achieve our goal of not increasing property taxes with some of the ideas that we've discussed here earlier tonight.
Definitely in favor of SPLOST, definitely not in favor of increasing property taxes. But you have to keep one thing in mind. I'm familiar with what Patrick's talking about on the fire and rescue. He says on the interstate, but if we do that on the interstate, when they come to your house and my house and help us on the road, we're going to have to pay that fee too. And so I would not be for that, because it would be another fee for us. We can't charge the guys on the interstate. It'd be nice if we could, but we can't. We're going to have to charge everybody in Troup County. But I am definitely not in favor of property tax, and this is a good time for me to bring this up. I have never said anything about a 3.5% tax increase. All I said was our fire and our first responders and our law enforcement are grossly underpaid as compared to surrounding counties, and they are. They're very, very underpaid. But I have never mentioned a 3.5% tax increase, and I'm against tax increases. I'm retired. I have to pay taxes just like y'all do. I have less money now than I used to, so no, I don't want to increase our property taxes.
Thank you, Frank. If you will, hang on up there, and I'll follow up with that. You bring up a good point. Would you be in support of the pay raises for the county emergency service employees? And how do you think you can pay for that in the current expenditure and revenue environment?
We're just going to, I would be. And the reason I would be is because we lose great people every week, every day to surrounding areas. We're just going to have to find a way to cut our budget in other areas so we can keep good employees. You can't keep good employees. You know, my dad told me a long time ago, you get what you pay for, and I believe that with all my heart. You do get what you pay for. If you buy something cheap, you get something cheap. If you pay something good for something, you get something good. And we're losing a lot of our good employees. So I would look for a way to find a way to cut budgets in other areas and increase our county employees' salary. But 3.5% would be a little bit light right now, the way the economy is. I would never go for that. So.
I think I need to go back and address what my opponent said. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you said that you would commit a 3.5% raise to our public safety workers at our last meeting.
I did not. I said they were grossly underpaid.
Okay, well,
That
I'm
was
sorry.
reported, so we can check on it.
Okay. Well, as far as me and how I would consider what we would do as far as our county employees, you know, I've visited several of the fire stations and talked to the people, you know, and I think one guy pointed out real well, if you give me a pay increase, are you gonna go up on my property tax because I own a house and I'm not gonna make any money if you take it away from me on my property tax. Well, and let me say this first off, that I support our county workers. I've been an employee all my life, and my paycheck and my benefits are very, very important to me. And so my plan would be to go in there and look at, like I said, the University of Georgia will come in and do a compensation and benefits review for it. We can identify those areas that we're possibly low in. We're not paying our starting people enough money, and we look at increasing those. But if we go across the board and do a 3.5% raise, it's going to cost us $460,000 for all our public safety workers. And I don't think we can give one to our public safety workers without going ahead and giving the raise to our other county workers. So if we don't, we're going to create big division between our county workers. With the events over the last several weeks, and a lot of our county workers have been attacked and been on the front page of the paper, one thing besides pay that we need to look at, and that's returning a sense of pride to our county workers. I mean, these guys are giving and giving every day. And those people that I've met with, those are good, hard-working people. And they're tired of seeing their names and their departments splashed all over a paper. And those guys want a sense of pride. So I support looking at their salary and their benefits, but I also look at a way of how we return a sense of pride to our county workers.